You know that feeling when you're staring at a jigsaw puzzle and you have these 3 or 4 pieces that clearly belong, but no matter how you turn them, they just don't fit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You start to wonder if you've got pieces from a completely different box.
Exactly. And that is how I have always felt about the history of, well, the ancient Persian Empire. You pick up a standard textbook and it gives you this very neat, tidy story
The standard narrative, yeah.
that the Achaemenids, Cyrus the Great, Darius, all of them were Zoroastrians. They followed the prophet Zoroaster, worshipped Ahura Mazda, and believed in this whole cosmic battle between truth and the lie. Simple.
That is the orthodox history.
Mhm.
It's what you'll find in, almost every encyclopedia. It's the story that's held up for the better part of a century.
But then you start looking at the actual evidence and the puzzle pieces, they just stop fitting. You have Cyrus the Great, who never even mentions Zoroaster, but he's all about praising Babylonian gods. And then his son, Cambyses, acts more like an Egyptian pharaoh. And weirdest of all, you have the so-called heresy that pops up later called Zurvanism, which claims that time itself created God.
It feels less like a coherent religion and more like, as you said, pieces from different boxes. Or maybe a crime scene where the evidence has been tampered with.
That's a perfect way to frame it, and that's why the research we're looking at today is so compelling. We're basing this deep dive on a paper called Zurvan, Mithra, and the Zoroastrian Transformation. And honestly, this isn't just a minor correction.
No, it's a bombshell, a total revisionist bombshell.
It basically argues that everything we think we know about the original religion of Iran is wrong.
Pretty much, yes. The source posits that what we call Zoroastrianism, that strict dualistic faith, wasn't the original religion of the empire at all. It was a hostile takeover.
A hostile takeover.
It argues the original faith was something totally different. A solar-based religion focused on Mithra, the sun, and time, and the history we have today. That's just the version written by the winners, who then spent 1,000 years trying to bury the sun god.
Wow. Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to be detectives. We need to span, what, 1,000 years? From Cyrus to the Islamic conquest to see if we can find this original religion hiding in plain sight.
And we have to start right at the beginning, because the biggest piece of evidence that just doesn't fit that Zoroastrian narrative is the founder himself, Cyrus the Great.
Right. We have the Cyrus cylinder. It's famous. It's in the British Museum. People call it the first charter of human rights.
It's a huge deal.
Cyrus conquers Babylon, 539 BCE, and he writes this decree. But our source points out this massive, glaring omission in the text.
It is the silence that speaks the loudest here. Cyrus is very chatty on this cylinder. He lists all his titles, King of the World, King of Anshan.
He lists his ancestors going back generations.
Exactly. But he never, not once, mentions Zoroaster. He never mentions Ahura Mazda, who is supposed to be the supreme god of Zoroastrianism.
Which is just bizarre for a so-called devout follower. And I mean, if you conquer a city in the name of your god, you usually mention the god.
You'd think so. I, Cyrus, servant of Ahura Mazda. But nothing. Instead, who does he credit?
Marduk, the chief god of Babylon. He explicitly says Marduk, the great lord, chose him to rule and guided his army.
Yeah.
Now, I've always heard historians explain this away as, diplomacy. Cyrus was just being a savvy politician, telling the Babylonians what they wanted to hear.
It's the safe standard answer. It preserves the idea that Cyrus was a Zoroastrian by basically making him a liar. But our source says, look deeper. Who is Marduk?
Just some Babylonian statue, right?
Well, in the older Sumerian tradition, Marduk is connected to Amar-Utu, and that translates to the young bull of the sun.
Young bull of the sun, okay.
Marduk is a solar deity. He maintains cosmic order. Now, if Cyrus was a strict Zoroastrian, Marduk is a false idol, a deva, a demon. Worshipping him is a massive sin.
But if he wasn't?
If he was a Mithraist, a follower of the old Iranian solar religion, then seeing people worship a solar god of order isn't heresy at all.
It's recognition.
Exactly. It's syncretism. He didn't see a foreign demon. He saw a local translation of his own god, Mithra. He wasn't pandering. He was acknowledging they worship the same force, just with a different name.
That implies a kind of religious openness that strict Zoroastrianism really lacks. But okay, I can buy that for Cyrus. He was a unifier. But then we have to talk about his son, Cambyses, because this guy has a terrible reputation.
The madman Cambyses, yes.
Right. Herodotus, the Greek historian, basically paints him as a cartoon villain. The famous story is he marches into Egypt, conquers it, and then stabs the sacred Apis bull just to prove it isn't a god.
It's a great story. It's dramatic. It's shocking. It's also Greek propaganda.
And we know this because of the archaeology. We actually have physical proof.
We have the smoking gun, or, well, the sarcophagus. Archaeologists excavated the Serapeum in Memphis, the burial place of the sacred bulls. And they found the sarcophagus of the specific Apis bull that died during Cambyses' reign.
In 524 BCE, and I'm guessing it wasn't stabbed.
Not only was it not stabbed, it was buried with full royal honors. The inscription on it is incredible. It explicitly says that Cambyses, using the Egyptian royal title Mesuti Ra, son of Ra, commanded the rituals.
He didn't mock the bull, he worshipped it. He dedicated the sarcophagus to his father, Apis Osiris.
And here is the aha moment. In Orthodox Zoroastrianism, worshipping a bull is daivyasna. It's demon worship. It's absolutely forbidden. If Cambyses were a Zoroastrian, he never would have done this.
But in Mithraism,
In the old solar religion, the bull is central. It's the partner of the sun. So Cambyses revering the Apis bull doesn't make him a bad Zoroastrian. It proves he was a faithful Mithraist. He and his father were operating under a completely different religious framework.
so the early kings, Cyrus and Cambyses, they're clearly on Team Mithra. But this brings us to the weirdest part of the puzzle for me, this idea of Zurvan.
Right.
In the textbooks, Zurvanism is this heretical sect that pops up later, believing that time was the supreme creator, and it gives birth to both the good god, Ormazd, and the evil spirit, Ahriman.
It seems so abstract.
Right. How do you get from sun worship and bull worship to time worship? Are they different religions?
This is where the source does some just brilliant linguistic detective work. The argument is, they aren't different things at all. Zurvan and Mithra are linked by language.
Okay, so walk us through this. I know linguistics can get a little dry, but this seems crucial.
It is. It relies on a known sound shift between Indo-Aryan languages and Iranian languages. Often a Z sound in one shifts to an S in the other. Think of the region Sind becoming Hind.
Okay, so Z becomes S.
So take the word Zurvan, apply that shift, it becomes Servan. Now there's a second, very common shift within Iranian. The S often becomes an H.
Like Azura becomes Ahura.
Exactly. The Sanskrit Soma becomes the Persian Hama. So Servan becomes Hervan.
Hervan.
And Her is the ancient root word for the sun. You see it in Ashver or Korshed. And Van is just a suffix meaning keeper or guardian.
Wait a minute. So Hervan, guardian of the sun, and Zurvan, time, are linguistically the same title.
That is the theory. When the ancients spoke of Zurvan, they weren't inventing some new abstract god of clocks. They were using another name, an epithet, for the sun.
And that makes physical sense. I mean, what is time to an ancient person?
It's the movement of the sun. Day, night, seasons, years. You measure time by the sun's position. The sun is the generator of time.
So the heresy that time is the father of all things wasn't a new invention.
It was just the original theology of Mithraism. The sun, as time, creates the context for day and night to even exist.
That solves a huge plot hole, because the Greeks kept reporting the Persians believed time is the father of good and evil. And the later Zoroastrians were always saying, no, we don't, that's blasphemy.
It was blasphemy to the new Zoroastrians, but it was the standard belief of the old Mithraists. The Greeks were just reporting on the older religion that was still popular among the people.
Okay, so when does this shift happen? If Cyrus and Cambyses were Mithraists, who comes along and decides to change the script? Who starts calling the old ways the lie?
Enter Darius I. The year is 522 BCE, and this is where the political thriller begins.
Darius is the guy with the huge Behistun inscription carved way up on a cliff face.
That's him. Now, Darius has a problem. He is not the direct heir to the throne. He seizes power in a violent coup. And to justify it, he tells this incredible story. He claims the king on the throne, Bardia, the brother of Cambyses, wasn't the real Bardia.
Right, the imposter story. That it was a magus, a priest, named Gamada, who looked exactly like him.
A magus. That word matters. Our source looks at this and says, this sounds like a cover-up. The odds of a perfect look-alike magician fooling the entire court is, low.
It sounds like a soap opera plot. It wasn't me, it was my evil twin.
The source suggests that the man Darius overthrew was the real Bardia. But Bardia, like his father and brother, was a traditional Mithraist, a magus in the old style. Darius, however, was a revolutionary.
He was from a family that had converted to this new, radical, dualistic sect.
Zoroastrianism, exactly. So when Darius talks about fighting the lie Droga, he isn't just talking about a political lie.
He's talking about a religious one.
Precisely. To Darius, the old solar religion with its bull sacrifices and its amoral time god, that was the lie. He introduces the name Ahura Mazda for the first time in royal inscriptions. He's declaring a holy war on the previous administration's faith.
That's a massive pivot. You go from these inclusive solar kings to a guy saying, my God is the only truth, and everyone else is following the lie.
And this creates a fracture that plagues the empire for centuries. You have the royal family pushing Zoroastrianism, but the noble families, the ones running the army, they stuck to the old ways. They were still Mithraists.
Which explains why the religion looks so confusing for the next few hundred years. It's a cold war between the court and the people.
And it gets even messier after Alexander the Great comes through and, burns the archives. We fast forward to the Parthian period.
The chill middlemen of history. Just pay your taxes, ride your horses, worship whoever.
Pretty much. But there was a problem. After Alexander, the holy texts were scattered. So a Parthian king, Vologases I, decides to do something noble. He orders the collection of all the Iranian religious heritage. Gather every hymn, every ritual.
Which sounds like a good thing, preserving culture.
It is, but there was a huge flaw. They didn't have a theological filter. They collected everything. They grabbed the hymns of Darius's Zoroastrian sect, but they also grabbed the ancient hymns of the Mithraic tradition.
Oh, I see where this is going. It's like trying to make a definitive playlist of classical music, but you accidentally throw in a bunch of jazz tracks because they both use a piano.
That is a perfect analogy. The result was the Avesta, the holy book.
Huh.
But it's a Frankenstein's monster of a text. You have the Gathas, which are strict, abstract Zoroastrian chants about good versus evil. And right next to them, you have these vivid, violent hymns to Mithra, the warrior sun.
So the holy book itself is contradictory because it's a compilation of two rival traditions.
Exactly. And this confusion sets the stage for the final violent showdown, the Sasanian Empire. These guys take over around 224 CE, and they are not chill like the Parthians.
The Sasanians are the fundamentalists. They want a clean house.
They want a unified state religion to rival the Christianity that's growing in Rome. They want pure Zoroastrianism. And the key figures here are the king, Ardashir, and his terrifying high priest, Kartir.
Kartir's a piece of work. He leaves these inscriptions bragging about how many religions he crushed. It's like a resume.
I struck down the Jews, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Brahmins. He lists everyone, but there's one group missing from his hit list.
Let me guess. The Mithraists.
He never lists them, and he can't. Because the 7 great families, the noble houses that provided the king with his cavalry and generals, were all Mithraic. They were too powerful to attack directly.
So the high priest hates their religion, but the king needs their swords. He's in a bind.
So they engage in a covert war. They can't ban Mithra, so they demote him. They rewrite the theology to make Mithra just a helper or a lieutenant of Ahura Mazda. They take the core belief of the old faith that time creates everything, and they label it the Zurvanite heresy.
So cynical, they couldn't kill the religion, so they just rebranded it as a mistake.
But the heresy was stubborn. It survived because it solved a problem that Zoroastrianism couldn't. If Ahura Mazda is all good and all powerful, where does evil come from?
The classic theological trap. If God made everything, he made the devil. If he didn't, then he's not all powerful.
Exactly. The old Mithraic or Zurvanite answer was elegant. Time is the source. Time is neutral. From its movement, both light and dark are generated. They're twins, necessary for the cycle of existence. A very resilient idea.
And it didn't just stay in Iran, did it? Because these ideas were leaking out the borders.
This is the echoes part of the story. Back when Darius started his purges, a lot of the old priests, the Magi, fled west into the Roman world.
And this is where we get the cult of Mithras in Rome.
Yes, the religion of the Roman legions. Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. If you look at Roman Mithraic art, you often see this bizarre figure. A man with a lion's head, wrapped in a snake, holding a key.
I've seen that. It's terrifying, like something out of a nightmare.
That is Aeon, or Zurvan, infinite time. The Roman mystery cult preserved the very deity that the Sasanian priests were trying to erase back home. It's like a backup drive of the religion was saved in Rome.
That is deeply ironic. The Romans thought they were practicing some exotic foreign mystery, but they were actually preserving the oldest Iranian theology.
And it survived in the East, too. The source mentions Armenia. They became Christian early, but the Armenian priests wrote down the old myths specifically to mock them, to say, look how silly these Persians are. And in doing so, they accidentally saved the evidence.
Wow, and even into Islam.
Absolutely. When Islam arrives, the official structure of Zoroastrianism collapses. But the folk beliefs, the emphasis on divine light, on cyclical time, those ideas seep right into Shia Islam and Persian Sufi philosophy. The sun god was officially gone, but the way of looking at the universe remained.
So if we zoom out, We started with a simple question about Cyrus and a Babylonian god. And we've ended up uncovering this thousand-year struggle for the soul of the Middle East.
It really forces you to rethink what orthodoxy even means. We think of religions as these fixed, static blocks of truth, but this story shows that religion is so often a construction. It's built by power.
And Darius and Cartier built this box called Zoroastrianism and tried to force everyone inside it.
But the things that didn't fit, the sun, the bull, the time god, they weren't weeds in the garden. They were the original soil.
Zurvanism wasn't a deviation, it was the memory of the older faith, just refusing to die.
That is the big takeaway.
It really makes you wonder about other histories. I mean, how many other heresies in Europe or Asia were just the older traditions that lost a political battle?
That is the question to keep you up at night. History is a palimpsest. Someone is always writing over the old text. But if you have the right tools, like the linguistics and the archaeology we looked at today, you can still read what was written underneath.
Well, next time you see a reference to Father Time or you're just watching the sun go down, remember, you might be looking at one of the oldest gods in human history, still hiding in plain sight. Thanks for going on this journey with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.